YouTube, welcome back to another video. Today, slightly something different. Never done this before, so I'm really excited to get into the video. As you can see, we have a special guest on today, Lewis. Welcome, Lewis.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
Lewis, talk us about who you are and what you do.
So yeah, I am a Luton Town content maker. Been making content about Luton ever since we were in the League 2 of the English Football League, and yeah, now make Premier League content and still continue to make Luton content now.
Absolutely, it's very exciting. Before I even started myself, guys, I watched a lot of Lewis's videos, got inspired by what you do and stuff like that, and finally I can start doing it myself, and now obviously working together and doing these type of videos. So really excited. Hopefully we can have a good time today and find out exactly our thoughts on the season. Just before we go into the predictions of this weekend, how excited are you to be in the Premier League firstly, and what does it mean for the club, for yourself?
For me, it's a dream come true. Like when you're growing up and all your friends support Premier League clubs and you're the one who supports a club that was at the time in non-league football rising through the leagues, it's definitely something that I've always wanted to happen, but you just don't know if it is ever going to happen like during your lifetime. And the fact that it has happened during my lifetime is amazing. It's happened in my parents' lifetime. They got to see Luton in the top division, but now it's my time now to get to see my club. We might lose every week, but this one season, this one season is gonna be special to me, and everything that I've been through throughout the whole year. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to what we could potentially do, and I do think we are going to cause a few shocks this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, one of the biggest things growing up is whenever I go, I play cricket and stuff like that. Whenever I used to go there as a youngster, everyone would just be, oh, what team do you support? Luton Town. Who are they? And they were back in like non-league, etc. And every time, you know, you go and do the fancy Premier League or whatever, what Premier League team do you support? And you always have to scroll right down to the bottom and go, none. And then now we can finally select that Luton Town, and how exciting it is to be able to sort of say, oh, I support Luton. Oh yeah, they're newly promoted. Yeah, everyone now knows who Luton Town are, and you know, what we're going to get from this season, even if it's one season, the amount of interest that we're going to get, a bit like with the Wrexham situation or stuff like that, how much more relevant we're going to become now.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. Like, just the international fan base is just going to grow, and that's what's going to hopefully generate more money across the years, and yeah, we just become bigger and bigger as a football club.
This week is the first week of the season. As you've just told me, you are not able to go now, are you, due to work? Gutted, I'm sure.
It's a killer, but it's the price you pay for, you know, work commitments. But I will eventually get to go to some Premier League games this season. I'm definitely going to the first home game of our first home game of the Premier League season against West Ham. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I think that's a must, isn't it? Like, if you can get a ticket, you've got to be at the first Kenilworth Road Premier League. Everyone's talking about it. I'm quite excited to see on Sunday Fall and the Rise of Luton Town or whatever. That's meant to be coming out. That's meant to be really good.
Yeah, I did see like get advertised myself, and yeah, I've noticed a lot more, you know, media coverage is now happening on Luton, and it's about time really, because, you know, this wasn't just a fairy tale from us just getting promoted to the Premier League. It was a fairy tale beforehand, because what we've been through as a football club, and then to be able to come back from that and then climb up the leagues, you know, that's just special in itself before the Premier League even happened. So it's about time.
Let's get into this weekend then. So Friday night evening at 8 o'clock, we've got Burnley versus Man City. Talk to me about what you feel that's going to happen.
I just think you got typical Pep football, you know. I just feel like with Company, I think you saw it when they played each other last season in the FA Cup, you know, despite Burnley trying to, you know, do the fancy stuff like what Man City do, they just can't do it on that level. And just like what happened in that game, I just think quality is just going to show.
I don't know, with Burnley though, we watched them last year. Obviously, we got a draw out of them last year at their place quite early on. And then they come to us and made it really difficult. You could really tell like the Pep style that Company was trying to obviously bring in. And it'll be really interesting to see the Burnley company style or Pep style to the actual Pep style of Man City. I'd like to see what your prediction is, but I've given a little bit more credit to Burnley on this one.
Yeah, I've gone with 4-0 Man City. I just think just the quality which Man City have.
Yeah.
I think as well with the Premier League title race, I do think it's going to be between Arsenal and Man City this year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you need to hit the ground running, you know, set the message off at the start like they did last year, Arsenal. And so I think if Man City can have a much better start than they did last year and implement it into this season, then yeah, they can hit the ground running. So that's why I think it's going to be a 4-0 win.
Do you think it will affect them losing Riyad Mahrez and of course Gundogan?
Yeah, that's why I don't think they're going to win the league. With Foden, I think he's going to become a more of a centralised player. I think rotation, we know what Pep's like with rotation. You know, it's been a FPL nightmare over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to see a little bit less rotation. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like when you look at Arsenal and you look at Man City, I think Arsenal, you can clearly see that they've had weaknesses and they've looked at the areas and they've improved on their weaknesses. Whereas Man City, they won the treble. Yep. It's very hard to then go after winning everything which you can do and setting those standards again and try and repeat that the following season. So that's why I just don't think they're going to have it in their locker to do that. I do think they're going to win something. They're going to win at least one major trophy. Yeah. Which one it's going to be, I'm not too sure.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I've given Burnley a little bit more credit. I've gone 2-1 to Man City today. I just felt that, you know, Burnley's style, they're a little bit more harder to break down the way they're trying to play. They know, obviously, Vincent Kompany knows the way Pep plays and the weaknesses potentially. And Burnley at home, first game of the season as well, want to prove themselves back in. There's a lot of people that are potentially writing Burnley off, but I seem to think they're going to do a little bit better than people think this year. So I've gone 2-1 Man City.
Right.
Okay, the next one is the early kickoff on Saturday. Arsenal versus Forest. Talk to me. What's your thoughts?
I think early kickoff, I always like to avoid it, but I am going with a 3-1 Arsenal win. I think Arsenal will just be pretty dominant, and then get then Forest will get a consolation goal towards the end. So yeah, I think it's going to be really nice professional performance by Arsenal. Just as they find out, because I think they're going to find out that Man City will win. So then pressure's already on. Mm-hmm. So I think despite the pressure already at such an early point in the season, I think they'll be all right and get the win.
Yeah, I've gone with a 3-0 for this one. I just feel that Arsenal are back off their win against Man City. Now they're all, tweeting to say they're going to win the league, etc. this year. I think they're on a real high at the moment. They're going to continue and they're just going to go out. Nottingham Forest have brought in Chris Wood from Newcastle. And I think they also brought Matt Turner from Arsenal as well. So, they've done a bit of recruiting, but they've obviously released quite a few players as well.
Yeah, I think Forest, if Cooper stays throughout the whole season, I think they'll stay up. But I think if he does get sacked at some point, I just don't think they can get another manager in that could potentially keep him up.
Yeah,
and I just as well with their squad, with the amount of signings they made last year, I don't think there's as much togetherness within that group of players compared to Luton, for example. Like you can tell, if we lose a few games, the squads that togetherness is still there. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think if Forest go on a real bad run of form, I don't think they've got that togetherness to grind out and keep them up. But I feel like Cooper's just got something about him, and that's why I think Forest will have. Well, I don't think they'll have a comfortable season, but I do think they can stay up.
Just a word on Arsenal. You did talk about obviously winning the league this year or whatever. They've obviously brought in 3, Havertz, Rice and Timber. What do you make of the signings?
I think Rice is obviously the standout one. I think he does massively improve them. I think in an area in which they needed to improve in.
Yep.
The fullback position as well with Timber, I think they've improved there. Kai Havertz is the most interesting one because where does he fit? Does he play as a false 9? Does he play as a winger? Does he drop deeper in the midfield? That's just the question mark on him. But I feel like Arsenal recruited well, still a young side, but still all together for another year. I think they learned a lot last year, with them obviously being accused of bottling the league for being at the top for so long.
Yeah.
But I think they learned heavily a lot last year. Arteta's also learned a lot. They're in Europe this year as well, so it'd be interesting to see how well they do. So yeah, if I'm an Arsenal fan, I would be very excited on what could potentially happen this year. But I do think that title could be theirs.
Bournemouth, West Ham, the start of the 3 p.m. kickoffs. What do we make of the
Yeah, so Bournemouth, I think, will win 2-0. I think with West Ham's recruitment so far, it's been absolutely terrible. At the moment, as we're recording, they've not made a single signing. I know that I think the fee with Maguire's been agreed and Ward-Prowse has been agreed.
Yeah, 30 million I heard.
Yeah, 30 million for Maguire. I think is it 35 million for Ward-Prowse or something like that.
Not
But with them, I'm just really shocked. On the back of winning in Europe that title, the Conference League title. You would have thought, right now, this is our time to step up now. But they haven't really done that for whatever reason. I don't know if there's been a massive disagreements between manager and the board. Not too sure. But with the way Bournemouth have gone about things, I think they've made some real underrated signings.
yeah.
And I feel like they're going to shock a lot of people with the style of football which they're going to implement as well. I think they just hijacked the Max Aarons move from Leeds. So they're going to be bringing him to play right back. I feel like they are one team to watch out for. Got some good young players in there as well. And I'm really excited to see what Bournemouth can potentially do this year. But I do think they're going to surprise a few people, stay up, because I think a few people said that they were going to go down, but stay up a little bit more comfortable than they did last year.
I was even one of them that said, Bournemouth are the ones to go down. As Luton, we know we're trying to get, or there's rumours we're trying to get John Ruddy, for instance, from Birmingham, but Birmingham are holding off until they get a replacement, aren't they? And you almost feel from last year with West Ham, they knew Declan Rice was going. All West Ham fans that you speak to knew that he was going this summer regardless. And you would think West Ham would purely have gone, right, you can have him, but we need to get replacements in first. Or if you've had the whole summer to sort them replacements, you haven't. You sort of question, is it Moyes? Is it the board? What's going on? And personally, I've spoken to quite a few West Ham fans. I said that Moyes was in trouble in the league. The only reason he sort of stayed is because he won the conference. And truthfully, if I was a Moyes, I would have gone, right, I'm going to hand over my legacy now that I've done what I, come and set out, and we've won the conference, we've won a major trophy. I can't take you guys any further what I need to, so I'm going to hang up my, career here and allow someone now to come in and take you that step further. And that was personally my take on it. A few of them sort of agreed on that as well, but be interested to know what people think around the Moyes situation. Brighton Luton is the next one at the 3:00 kickoff that we've got down here. Talk us all about the Brighton Luton then.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. I think with this being our first game, Premier League game, I feel like we are going to score at some point. Okay. I just don't know when and how we're going to do it. Yep. And I don't care how we do it. I just want us to score.
Score. We want to just seal a goal. That's it.
Exactly. Just get a goal, get that nerves out the system, because the longer you go without scoring in the Premier League, that it's more pressure. And also just getting a point as well. The longer you go without getting a point, it takes a few pressure off. I think if you can get something from this game, you've got to turn up against Brighton. I feel like we are playing Brighton at the perfect time, because Brighton are a team, for me, that get better as the season goes on. So I would be a lot more scared if we were playing them as our 10th game of the season rather than our first. But with it being the first, with a lot of our players being our core players still at the club, I feel like that goes in our advantage a little bit. Whereas with Brighton, their goalkeepers obviously has gone to Chelsea. Yep. Some of their players are still rumoured to be going. That could be in their head still. That Cancedo in the midfield. So you still have a few question marks there. But the squad at Brighton is still more than capable of causing lots of problems. And if Luton don't turn up, they could easily put 2 or 3 past us. But I do think they will also score at some point, and I do think we'll also score at some point. Yeah,
I went to watch Brighton, one of the last games seen against Man City, and they were very good. The passing from the back, the fluids, it was just different level. And we're going to get a big culture shock, I think, when we head up to that. Obviously, Wolves was a little bit of a test, and you could see the bit of quality. But Brighton, I think they're going to be strong again this year. They got rid of McAllister and Sanchez, but they've then recruited James Milner, which was a brilliant free signing from Liverpool. It's bound to happen, just like it is in every league we have. Obviously, João Pedro coming from Watford. He's going to play it on the table now. He's probably going to score, because everyone that seems to play for the opposition team that have played at Luton seem to score. We always say, you always boo against, etc. or whatever, but yeah, I've gone for a 2-1 Brighton. I hope and, really pray that we do score, and I feel that we will at some stage, as you say, the first game. I just feel that Brighton are very good. I almost put 3-1 to Brighton to be more realistic, but Brighton are going to be good this year, and personally, I can't see our first point coming from Brighton. What do you think the starting 11 is going to be for Luton?
So I think the question mark is going to be the midfield, I think. Because I think the strikers talk for themselves. I think it's going to be Morris and Elijah up top.
Yep.
I think in goal, Kaminsky. I think right back you've got Kapore, and then the centre halves in Anderson, Lockyer, and Amari Bell.
Yep.
Our only three fit centre halves. I feel like we keep saying that recently. And then left-sided, that's another argument actually as the left wing back, because who do you play, Alfie or do you play Giles? And then in the midfield, I think it's going to be Nakamba, Chong, and Pelly.
Yeah.
And then I don't think Barkley will start.
No.
I think he's probably a week or two behind the current group of players, but he'll be more of an impact player from the bench. But yeah, you're looking at it roughly around that would be my starting 11 roughly.
Yeah, I think you're not wrong, to be honest. I had Giles to start a left wing back because, you know, the last few games we've seen, we need his quality in his crossing. You could just tell the quality he had and the balls he was putting in. Alfie's brilliant, you know. Alfie has played a lot of minutes pre-season, like people have said, etc. But I think just Giles is that little bit step up from Alfie in terms of the quality of the ball. They both got pace, they both got the ability to run down the wing. But I just feel the slight little bit better of quality is in Giles with the crossing. So I think that's the reason why he will start. So we then move on, Everton Fulham.
I just think it's going to be probably the worst game of the week, I think.
Yeah.
I think with Fulham, I think they're going to have another mid-table finish season, which I don't think is any problem to any Fulham fan. I don't think the recruitment they've done is a step up to what to make them challenge for those European places. Whereas with Everton, I think their recruitment's been shocking considering how bad they were last year. I would have thought they would have made a lot more signings, but I think with financial fair play, again, with some shocking signings over the last couple of seasons, not bringing in more attacking players. I know they've got Danjuma in, but you know you're relying on him to stay fit because Calvert-Lewin obviously really cannot stay fit throughout a whole season.
Yep.
But what you do know with Everton is you're going to get a defensive solid unit in a Sean Dyche team. So that's why I'm going to go with I reckon it's just going to be a boring 0-0. I think Fulham will be the better side and try and break them down, but I think it's just going to come to Everton just being able to hold on, Pickford making a few good saves, and both teams keeping a clean sheet. Yeah,
I really like Sean Dyche, the way he plays and the managerial style. I think he will probably be one of the reasons if Everton do stay up. You know, his style of play and stuff like that. As you say, they brought in Ashley Young and Danjuma is the two players they have. They've released quite a few players. Fulham have brought in Calvin Bassey and Raul Jimenez. So, you know, they're two reasonable signings. Let quite a few go as well, but neither of them have really had an outstanding transfer season. They're holding back. I've got boring 0-0 as well. Not really much more you can say on that season. We move on to Sheffield United versus Crystal Palace. I've gone 1-0 Palace. What's your score prediction for this one?
Yeah, I've got 1-0 Palace as well.
Generally think, you know, a lot of people have written them off this year, but I think Sheffield United are going to be one of the teams that will go down. The recruitment, you know, has not been brilliant. They've got rid of their main guys, and they've not really recruited that well. They've got Trusty and Traore sort of thing, but we beat them at their place last year, and obviously I think it was a draw at home, wasn't it?
We absolutely dominated them at home.
I think they're going to struggle this year, and hopefully, you know, from a Luton point of view, they do, because it's one less team that we have to one less place we have to worry about. What do you make of Crystal Palace this year?
Yeah, Crystal Palace falls under the bracket for me. There's about 3 clubs I had in my head. Like, if they sack their manager, they're in trouble. And it was Nottingham Forest, Everton, and Crystal Palace. With Palace, there's no plan B. Like, what happens if things don't go correct under Roy? Like, Roy, fair enough, you know, he's been there, he's been in the game, he's done it all, you know, with those years of manager experience and stuff like that. But it feels like Palace are just falling back to him because they just can't think of anything else. They can't go with a bright young coach and stuff like that. And I just have a feeling that it may not go as planned this year. And that's when the reality check's going to hit in.
Yeah.
And I think if they sack Roy, that's when I think Palace are going to be one of the potential 3 to go down as well. You know, they've got a young squad. They've got some really good players. Don't get me wrong. And that's why I think they're going to beat Sheffield United with ease. But yeah, I just worry for them for the future because despite having a young team, there's no future plans in terms of manager wise.
Yeah.
You know, okay, Palace, you know, they've been in the Premier League for so many years now. But they've just been in around the same positions. They've not once challenged for European spots. You know, which is quite strange for the amount of years they've been in the Premier League. They've not really built it. It feels like there's no like proper future structure put in place. And we saw it with Leicester last year. You know, if you don't do the right things, you know, you could go down. It doesn't matter how expensive that squad is. So
yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing is Wilfried Zaha going on. You know, Zaha was always flirting with going at one stage. We seem to think that Luton always have a backup plan. They always say they've got a backup for the next person. They've always got the next signing coming in, etc. But are these other teams got the same? Is it the same sort of way, or is it just that we're, you know, in this bubble that we think that everyone should have a backup plan?
Well, it feels like it's Brighton, Luton, and Brentford that are in a certain bubble, and then it's all the other teams are just trying to replicate. Well, I say trying to replicate what the three teams do there, but I don't think they do. And I think Palace, they're one of the clubs which you would have thought future-wise they would have done something about it, you know, put in a proper structure in place, but there isn't any really. And you know, we look at Leicester when Schmeichel left to play football in France. You know, they didn't replace Schmeichel, and if Palace don't replace Zaha, could the same thing happen to what happened to Leicester? Same thing happened to Palace.
We then move on to Newcastle Villa.
I think Newcastle, with being in Champions League football, I think that's going to take a little bit of a priority. It's going to be a lot of football this year for Newcastle, and I think because of that, recruitment-wise, when you look at them, like, to be fair, they took advantage of a very poor Premier League last year, you know, with Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, all three of those clubs not performing last year. You know, it was a good opportunity for Newcastle to get top four football. You know, they just had to remain consistent. I think for this year, they haven't made too many signings. Obviously, they've got the Italian lad who came from AC Milan, but there hasn't been massive signings for Newcastle. And I think they've done that on purpose, because I think this year, I think they're going to give all those players that had a great year last year a go this year, see if they can step it up again. And if they don't, that's when I think they're going to start making a few more signings. But I think Champions League football is going to be a priority. And then with Villa as well, they're in European football, and I think they're one of the strong favourites to win that European Conference League with Unai Emery, with his record in Europe as well. I'm really excited with Villa this year. A lot of people are saying Villa are going to, you know, potentially try and get into that, you know, top five in the Premier League. But I think this game could go either way, but I'm just going to give it to Newcastle. I think they're going to win 2-1.
I've gone Newcastle 2-2, actually. Harvey Barnes would be a good addition for Newcastle. Aston Villa looked brilliant in pre-season, scoring lots of goals. Yeah, they've made a few signings, which is really promising for them. Tielemans on a free from Leicester was, you know, one of the highlights. Brentford versus Spurs. Sunday kickoff, 2:00, I think it is. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm a little bit shocked with Brentford, because we spoke about already about, you know, teams having a plan B, but they've not really had a plan B with Ivan Toney, have they? It's one of those questionable situations. Yeah, okay, he can come back after a certain point, but I felt like they should have got someone temporary in, because I do worry on who's going to score the goals. And with Tottenham, I think under their new boss, you know, the Australian man, you know, he's done well everywhere he's been, you know, in Asia and also in Scotland with Celtic. I actually really like him as a coach. I think he's really, the way he comes across is really good. And I think Tottenham, with them at the moment keeping Harry Kane, I think that's so vital in them if they're going to compete for that top four place. And I'm going to go for this one. I think because Brentford, for me, they feel a little bit more weaker than last year. Which is quite strange to say that about Brentford, because of how well they've done over the few years with the transfer market. But obviously, look, the transfer window hasn't finished yet.
No,
so,
of course.
You know, I'm pretty sure they can make a few more signings. But I think right now, if you was to tell me who was going to win, I would back Tottenham at this moment in time, and I'm going with 2-1 Tottenham.
Yeah, I've done exactly the same thing, 2-1 to Tottenham. I think. Do you think Harry Kane's going this season, or do you think they'll keep him?
I think Harry Kane's going to stay. I think if I'm Bayern Munich, is it worth it? A player of that money with 1 year left? Could you just wait for a year? You might as well. And I think if I'm Harry Kane as well, you might as well just break the Premier League record. I think, You know, I know it's all about winning trophies and stuff, but I think he will eventually win a trophy. And if Tottenham don't win something under this boss, I don't think they ever will do, because you know they've had some top managers over the last couple of years, and they've been close,
Yeah.
but they still haven't got there. And I think this year the league's all the trophies are there to be won. You know, there's so many good teams this year. And I just feel like with the signings Tottenham have made, I think they can. I think it's just that defensive area is going to be a problem.
I don't think he will remain. I think he will disappear. Where is a good question, but yeah, I can't. If Tottenham don't keep him, mid-table finish for me. If they do, you know, they may be pushing a little bit higher up.
Yeah, I think teams are just leaving it too late now. I think with the season now starting, I just don't see Harry leaving, because Tottenham are going to want a high fee, because if they need to replace him, every other club are going to put a high fee.
Before we move into the 4:30 kickoff, Chelsea-Liverpool.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a boring one. I think this is, you know, I think everyone's thinking, what a great game as an opener, you know, Chelsea v Liverpool, but I just don't think it's going to hit those highs. I think Chelsea rebuilding season this year under Poch. I think with working with those youngsters, it's going to be quite interesting to see how they plan out. I think they've had a much better pre-season than what Liverpool have had. Whereas Liverpool, there's still gaps within that side. You know, especially in that midfield. I don't trust that midfield to do well this year and try and get a top 4 finish. They still need to recruit some players. Obviously, missing out on Bellingham, who obviously went to Real Madrid. Yeah. I just think this game is just going to be a boring 0-0, and I think Chelsea will have a better season than Liverpool this year.
Okay. So they've obviously brought in McAllister. I'm going to really murder his name, I think. Is Szoboszlai, maybe, from Leipzig for 60 million. So that's the 2 players they've brought in this year. Chelsea obviously winning the pre-season Premier League trophy over in America, whatever. So they're going to have a much better season. I generally think Chelsea will do well this year. Honestly, they'll finish a lot higher up in the table, winning games. I've got a 1-1 draw here. I think, you know, both teams will score. I think it will end in a draw, whether we see more goals than a 0-0 or 1-1. They've recruited quite a lot of people as well this year, haven't they? They've gone out and spent again, but they've also got rid of quite a few players as well, haven't they?
Yeah, well, the amount of youngsters which they've got, and what Poch is really good is, we saw it at Tottenham, we saw it at Southampton. He's really good at working with youngsters, and I don't think at Chelsea now they've got well-starred players. Don't get me wrong, they've got players that are good quality, but I think Poch is better at turning players into good players, but into world-class players, and we saw that with Harry Kane at Tottenham. So I have really high hopes for Chelsea, but they have to keep Poch for the season. We know what Chelsea are like with sacking managers. They need to keep him for the year. It's not going to be instant success this year. No. It's a rebuilding season, and if you can get European football again, you know, obviously they've got a season without European football now.
And you can build on that.
And you can focus about just getting European football, then I think that's when you can start seeing a really good Chelsea. But they have to keep Poch, in my opinion.
Agreed. We move into the last, Manchester United on the Monday night.
Yeah, I'm going with a dominant Man United performance, 3-0 at home. I think I've watched United play a bit during pre-season, and Garnacho, wow, he's going to be some player this year. I think he's going to have a proper breakthrough season. And obviously, he's already broken through the team playing a few games last year, but I think he's going to play a lot more this year. He's going to have more of an impact this year. I think Rashford looks really good. Obviously, they've signed Norwegian striker as well. He's come into the club. New goalkeeper, hardest position on the pitch, goalkeepers. He's got to settle in quite quickly. But against a Wolves team, which I don't think are going to offer much this season, I think it should be a quite dominant display, and that's why I'm going with a 3-0 Man United win.
Yeah, I've gone 3-0 as well. Man United have obviously recruited well this year. The keeper situation, he gets lobbed on his first debut at Old Trafford, was an interesting one, but we know what De Gea has done in the past himself. Johnny Evans going back to Man United was an interesting one on a free for me. That was a surprising one out of the others that had done, but Højlund looked like he's going to be really good. And of course, we know what Mason Mount's all about as well in the middle. So yeah, I think it's a dominant performance. We've seen what Wolves are like this year in the pre-season. I know they didn't have a full fit squad then, and the striker that missed a couple of open goal sitters almost was coming back from an ACL injury, I think it was. But yeah, I've got a 3-0 victory as well for Manchester United on this one. Perfect. So that concludes this game week 1 predictions. It's a little bit longer than we first thought it was going to be. However, it was nice to have an opening debate on each team, what we felt the signings were, how they feel they're going to go. And as obviously we go on through the season, we know what they're going to be playing like, their previous games, and it'd be a lot easier to talk about what we're... At the moment, we're literally talking about the unknown and what they've done in pre-seasons. Lewis, thank you so much for coming on board and giving your thoughts. Hopefully you've enjoyed yourself, and we can do more of this in the future.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Yeah, I need to have like some notes in front of me because I'm trying to just, when you're trying to think about stuff and you're using your memory and what you've read online and stuff like that. It's hard to just then obviously repeat it and get out your mouth at the same time. So yeah, definitely more for the future.
Absolutely. Well, guys, please do make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you put yourself in the comments and let us know what your thoughts are. And in the description below is Lewis's channel as well. Please make sure you go hit up the subscription button for Lewis as well. He also does all the content for Luton and lets us know his thoughts on the signings, the games, and he also does match vlogs as well. So make sure you go hit up Lewis in his YouTube channel, and of course on Twitter. Both Twitter URLs or the @ are above our heads, so make sure you go check that out as well. And thank you for watching today, and we'll see you on the next video.